Plenty to talk about on this Football Friday. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. coming at you from home because there's so much going on with this football team, so many talking points, and we got to relay all of that information to all of you. And that's why you subscribe to the channel. Watch party coming up on Sunday against the Cincinnati Bengals. Want to thank everybody for your support of the program here. Last night, we surpassed 98,000 subscribers during our watch party on Sunday. I think that we can get to 100K, and once we get there, YouTube is sending us that silver plaque. Also, before we start today's show, earlier today, I joined Larry Krueger on his YouTube channel. We talked about all things San Francisco, who they're competing with in the NFC, and some players that they could target via trades going into Tuesday's NFL trade deadline. Larry Krueger's done an awesome job with his YouTube channel, on the radio for a really long time in the Bay Area as well. If you want even more Niners content outside of the 49ers Report, I'm going to put the link to our show from earlier today down in the description of this video. I want to begin here with some updated Niners trade targets. San Francisco might make some moves going into Tuesday's deadline. I think in the NFC right now, it's a two-horse race. It's the Philadelphia Eagles, it's the San Francisco 49ers. And with how Philadelphia is playing right now and how San Francisco has played in the last couple of weeks, I think Philadelphia has a slight edge over the Niners. And this week, they made a really important move in that secondary. Their general manager, Howie Roseman, traded for Kevin Byard in a move with the Tennessee Titans. He's a two-time first-team All-Pro, 30 years old, so starting to get a little bit older, but a ball hawk. Co-interceptions leader back in 2017. Very good tackler. The Eagles were pretty bad at one of their safety positions, and now they've addressed one of their weaknesses. So San Francisco, I believe, should counter. You're competing against Philadelphia to make it to the Super Bowl in my estimation, and if they're improving their football team, I think San Francisco should improve their football team. They're in need, are the Niners, of edge help, defensive tackle help, to maybe address the bad running defense that we've seen the last couple of weeks, cornerback play, offensive line play as well. So you kind of have to look at these trade targets in a couple of different categories here, right? There are dream trade targets and the targets that you go after where you're like, F those picks. Don't even worry about them. We're going all in on the Super Bowl this year. My favorite player in that category is Patrick Surtain. I think that he could be a number one cornerback for your organization for the next 5 years. And I kind of like in a move like that, bring in Surtain. You'd have to give up a first-round pick, maybe even multiple first-round picks in the future to bring in a player like that. But it would remind me of when San Francisco brought in a Deion Sanders, a game changer who could really put you over the top at a really important position. And if you have to mortgage financials or draft capital, maybe some player capital, I think it isn't completely worth it because he's one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. So that's obviously dream trade target number one. The Niners just got a glimpse of Danielle Hunter. He was all over the place on Monday Night Football and is one of the best sack artists in the NFL right now. Going into last week, he had 8 sacks. That led the NFL, and he's going to continue to be on pace to lead the league in sacks this year if he's able to stay healthy. Brian Burns is another player, edge rusher for the Carolina Panthers. We've talked about him plenty here on the show. Has some familiarity with Steve Wilkes. I look at him like Surtain. Danielle Hunter would be maybe a rental. Brian Burns and Patrick Surtain, they are building blocks and foundational elements of your football team for the next several years. And they fulfill massively important positions that help you out right away. You can say the same thing about Chase Young, although the injuries scare me. Montez Sweat is a player who we discussed a little bit earlier this week. Chris Kocurek, Niners defensive line coach, coached him at the Senior Bowl back in 2019. They hosted him on a pre-draft visit, so they were clearly interested in the player then. And then you look at a player like Budda Baker. Interdivision trade doesn't always happen. Sometimes it does, though. And I look at Budda Baker as a weapon on this Niners defense. He can play safety. He can play in the slot. He can play linebacker. He can blitz the quarterback and make tackles behind the line of scrimmage. That would be incredible. And then there's a little bit of a wild card here, given a discussion that happened on Get Up on ESPN. Davante Adams, wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders are a bad football team. Even though Josh McDaniels is supposed to be an offensive mind, they have one of the worst offenses in the NFL. And Dan Graziano, NFL insider, said that the 49ers could be one of the sleeper teams that could make a Davante Adams trade. Davante Adams left the locker room 2 weeks ago, even after a win over the New England Patriots, because he was frustrated with his lack of touches. Earlier this year, he voiced his frustrations with the Raiders not being ready to win right now. He really went to Las Vegas partially because he wanted to play with Derek Carr because they played together at Fresno State. Derek Carr is in New Orleans now. So Davante Adams would be a crazy move for San Francisco, and that would be of the variety of an effort. We're going for it. We're putting our poker chips in the middle of the table and bringing in one of the best wide receivers in the game, and it would make San Francisco pretty unstoppable. The Niners receiving core has a lot of players who can run through you, not run past you. Brandon Ayuk, all-around wide receiver. Debo will run through you, not necessarily past you. Davante Adams is one of the best wideouts in the game, an all-around wideout who has every single route to his route tree, 50-50 balls. Elusive in the open field, still really good speed, reliable hands, red zone target. He is phenomenal. So for Dan Graziano to say that, I thought that was pretty interesting. Those are like blockbuster trade targets. The other trade targets that make more sense, let's take a look at a couple of Niners here. DJ Jones, defensive tackle, who could help out that run defense. Azeez Al-Shaair, who signed that deal with the Tennessee Titans. Rand Carthon, former Niners front office member, is now the general manager for Tennessee. They look to be selling, making players like Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins available. They traded the aforementioned Bayard, who's a franchise icon who will be in their ring of honor at some point. So if Tennessee is undergoing a fire sale, you could go Azeez Al-Shaair at linebacker. You could go Daniel Brunskill, who has scheme knowledge and can play really any position along that Niners offensive line. He only left because he was making more money with Tennessee. DJ Jones left to cash in on a deal that pays him around $10 million per year. So Daniel Brunskill, Azeez Al-Shaair, DJ Jones, a couple of players there who are familiar with this Niners organization that I think could make sense on some teams that are plummeting right now. Other players of note here. Kenny Moore, really good slot cornerback who was last an All-Pro in 2021 and a year ago was voted a top 100 player by his peers. In year 4 and year 5, he had 13 pass breakups. In year 2, he had 11. So a knack for making plays on the football. He's on an expiring deal. That would allow you to play him in the slot and just not play Isaiah Oliver any longer. Some Niners offensive line trade targets. Cody Whitehair is one of them, of the Chicago Bears, more than 100 starts in his NFL career. Jermaine Elumunor of the Raiders was just recently benched at tackle. I think that he could play guard. He's probably better suited to play there. And then Ezra Cleveland of the Minnesota Vikings, hidden on the depth chart right now. He might be better than some of the depth pieces you have, because San Francisco along this offensive line, it is no doubt an issue. The Colton McKivitz problem is a problem. Through 7 games, he is ranked 54th out of 58 right tackles in pass protection by Pro Football Focus. That is not good enough. And Spencer Burford, the right guard, has a pass blocking grade of 21.4, according to PFF, with 17 pressures given up. We were hoping for an Aaron Banks leap from Burford. It has not happened. So those are some trade targets for San Francisco. Before we get to Brock Purdy and this potential mysterious lingering elbow injury coming off that surgery, today's 49ers Report is sponsored by Prize Picks, the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. You can get up to a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure you use the code CLNS for that deal to apply. Last night with some NBA action, I went 3 for 3 on all of my picks, and you can win up to 25 times your money like me by using that link in that promo code. I had Damian Lillard more than 18.5 points, Tyrese Maxey more than 22.5 points, and then Gabe Vincent more than 6.5 points. So sign up today using that link in that promo code. We'll put that link down below in the description of this video. So Brock Purdy's elbow injury. Is he actually dealing with an elbow injury? This is pretty interesting here because when I was doing the watch party for this Monday Night Football game against Minnesota on Monday night, sometimes I'm so in the game and I'm announcing the game for myself, providing commentary, analysis, updates, that I don't always hear what the broadcast is talking about. And Troy Aikman said this during the broadcast. In talking to Brock Purdy about his elbow and the injury that he had last year in the playoffs, he's still regaining strength. It's not 100%. It's pretty notable. I mean, San Francisco has said that he is 100%. I think that he's looked 100%. But you struggle against Cleveland, you struggle again against the Minnesota Vikings, and talking points like this are going to come to the forefront. John Lynch said this morning on KNBR about Purdy's injury. And talking to him about his elbow and the injury that he had last year in the playoffs, he's still regaining his strength. Brock feels like he's 100% on the field and all that. It's just all the work that he continues to do to take care of that. I think that's more of what Brock was getting at. And I don't know if it was misconstrued, how it was communicated. I didn't hear it. But Niners VP of Football Communications, Corey Rush, did mention that's not what Brock was speaking to. He does feel 100% on the field. So if Troy Aikman's going to say that from outside of the building after a conversation with Purdy, and then the Niners are going to say this, I think it's the fact that Purdy is feeling somewhat 100%. But of course, anytime you have a surgery like that, you are trying to build up your strength because he only got that surgery back in March. Now, what's interesting is that there were some conspiracy theories around Purdy's injury this week. A lot of people were like, oh, Brock Purdy elbow, bye week coming up after Cincinnati. Now there are these mysterious concussion symptoms that he reported on the flight back to the Bay. Is this just a cover-up for Purdy to rest his elbow this week, next week going into the bye, and then come back out of the bye week in 3 weeks feeling 100%? I don't think that's the case. I think Purdy loves the game of football. He wants to play this week against Cincinnati. He understands what can happen in a blink if he's out for a little while or does not play well. He wants to prove that the last 2 weeks were a fluke, and he's more so the quarterback that started his career 10-0 as compared to the quarterback who was 0-2 in his last 2 weeks. So I wanted to pass along all that Niners info, some analysis, some reports, some takes. That's what we do here on the show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and have a fantastic weekend.